Welcome to Artistic Adventures. We're into part 3 of our Cleopatra doll project now, and in this video we'll be working on the wig and making that iconic bob look. So before we start putting hair on it, I wanted to show you the wig cap. I made this prior to doing the face up, and this is the raw alpaca fiber that I'll be using from Alpaca Meadows. And the first thing I did was make this thick bunch of two wefts glued together, and that's going to be what I use for the part, and that sort of tops everything off. And I'm going to stick it into this slit that I put in the top of the wig cap, and then we'll start adding hair to the rest of the wig cap. So I slide that in there, and then you see we can have a nice part that doesn't show any glue or anything. And I'm going to separate the two glued pieces in here because they were still a little bit wet. Spread them to either side and put a little bit of E6000 to glue them to the inside of the wig cap. And that sort of spreads it out a little bit so it's not so much of a big bunch under there. Now I'm going to glue this down to her head, and using, of course, my E6000. And I sort of hold this down for a while, and I can go back under if there's any pieces and glue those down. I'm putting this piece of paper towel over her face to protect the face up. And then the other thing I like to do is to protect this part that's going to be over the top of everything so I don't get glue on it. And I found this is a good way to do it. I wrap a pipe cleaner around it, and that way it sort of sticks. I can keep it stuck up in the air and keep it out of the way. So that works really nicely. And I usually start at the back. I usually do the back and then a little bit of the front, and then just start filling in. I do a little row of E6000, and then I press the fiber down into it until I'm sure that all the fibers are coated with the glue. If you do this, it makes a really strong wig, so you can wash it, you can get it wet. The glue is waterproof, and do anything, comb it, whatever, that glue holds it really well. But you got to make sure that you get the glue on there. And when you're doing this front part, make sure that you're pushing up towards the top knot, not towards the face, so the glue doesn't get down on the forehead. You want to make sure you have a nice even strand of glue there, and not too much so that it doesn't poke out from underneath. And now I'm just going to go around and spread the fibers around, all the way around, and then working upward to the top notch. This fiber is some of my favorite fiber. It's from the alpaca Rocco from Alpaca Meadows. His black fur is beautiful and really combs well. It styles well. I really love it. And every time she shares him, I try to get some of it. It's really beautiful. And the thing I want to make sure of when I get close to that top knot is that I don't get glue on the bottom of those hairs, because it makes them really stiff and doesn't make the part look very realistic. So just being a little careful as I get up next to that. But otherwise, I'm just putting little rows of the glue and pressing that down onto her wig. And I use my thumb and just press it up towards the top knot, and that spreads the glue around. You don't need to have the wefts all that close together. Doing it like this, you'll have plenty of hair, and you're always going to lose some hair when you're using this sort of fiber technique, but that's normal, and I always end up with plenty at the end. So you can see that's where her face is at this point. That'll be the bangs. And I'm getting ready to go now really close up to that top knot area, and then I have two side pieces and the back piece, and then that should finish it. But these, I want to be really, really careful not to get the glue too close to where the top knot comes out. And I'm trimming that to be really straight so I can make sure that I get close to it but not allow the glue to get too close. And here's where I'll use like a toothpick or this metal pointy tool, and I just press down on the glue instead of rubbing it with my finger. And that way I make sure that the glue is pressed into all the fibers, but I'm not pushing the glue out the top of where the fiber ends. And I'm going to do that on the two sides, same technique. And then I'll put another piece across the back, And that will be it for this wig. Now I don't wash my fiber prior to putting it on the wig. You could. To me, it's messy. I always end up losing a lot of it. So I usually make the wig, and since I'm using the E6000, it's waterproof, and I wash the wig after I finish applying it to the wig cap. And that just works for me. Everybody does it their own way, and that's fine. However you feel it works best for you. Everybody uses a different kind of glue. It's all fun. It's all good. There's so many great artists on YouTube. You'll see lots of different things, and you get your ideas and then do your own thing, right? All right, so I've kind of finished that, and I let that glue dry for a while. And then I combed it out after it was completely dry, and I knew that all the fibers had adhered. So she kind of looks like it right now, right, from the Addams Family. So I'm going to take this pipe cleaner off of the top knot, and then I'll be able to spread it out, and we'll just now get into the styling. Now I did have some of the gold fibers stick to the glue, so I'm just pulling those off with tweezers and my hemostat. If you don't have a hemostat, they're really nice. I use them for so many different things. You can really get a good grip on things. I use them for pulling the hair out. It really helps me because I don't have a very strong grip with my arthritis. So I'm going to take my metal tool there that's pointed and split that open to make the part. And then just spread those fibers around, all around the head so that none of the glued parts of the wefts show. All right, so there she is, it. And before I wash, I just want to go ahead and do a very preliminary trim. I'm going to cut the bangs, but I'll cut them way too long. I just want to do this so that after I wash it, I can get the hairs to go back in place where I want them to go, and cutting it really helps me do that. So you can see those bangs are really long, and I'm going to cut the sides pretty long too. We'll come back and trim this after we wash it. All right, so after I do that, I'm going to take it and wash it. Yep, there's our preliminary cut. All right, so here's how she looks after I washed it and combed it out. So it's looking really good, and now it's a whole lot easier to go in and trim things evenly because the hair's pretty thick, even though at this point it doesn't look that way. So I'm going to start with the bangs, and once again, I'm still not cutting them as short as I want them to end up being, but it's better to go slow with the cutting and do a little bit at a time, because once you cut it too short, there's not much you can do except start over, and I don't want to do that. All right, so I'm going to even up those edges, and she's starting to really look like the Cleopatra typical hairstyle, and just trying to get everything even. And make sure you keep combing it because that brings down some of the hairs that didn't get cut, and then you can make sure that it's completely even. Now I'm going to put a little bit of this hairspray on the very top part because I want those hairs to lie down flat. I don't want them to be sticking up, and they tend to do that when the hair is nice and clean and fluffy. So I'm going to put that on there, and I let that dry for a while so that the hair as well as the hairspray is completely done, and it lets the hair mold to that form. As you can see, she's starting to get the right look, but we still have a little bit of work to do. So after it's dried and I combed it out, this is where we are. The bangs are still a little too long. We're going to have to cut those. And the side hairs are also a little bit too long. So I'm using actually hair cutting scissors because they are a lot easier to cut the hair with than regular scissors, which tend to just kind of push the hair instead of cutting it. I want these to be up around her eyebrows so that the eyebrows just barely show. And I'm even going to have to cut off some of the sides. There's just a little bit too much near the face. And just working to get it even. Keep combing, getting those little ends off, and then getting a little bit more off of the sides. And she's really starting to look like that classic Egyptian bob that we're familiar with from pictures. And just cleaning up all the little edges, blowing off the hairs. And that's where we are right now. So we're going to add some things to the hair that's going to make it look even better. We're going to add a headpiece that's going to have braids attached to it, and will sit down on top of her head. So that's going to add more. But this is the basic hairstyle, and I think it turned out pretty well. So here's a still picture to give you a little bit better look after we're completely finished. We do have lots more to come. As I said, we'll be doing the costume in the next video, then some shoes. Then we'll probably be working on some jewelry and some final touches, and then she'll be complete. So that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, give me a thumbs up. And as always, if you haven't subscribed, please do so you don't miss a thing. Thanks, and bye.